Karen, you and I have known each other since I was 21 years old, and I'm about to turn 57. So I won't do the math, but a long time. And you are one of the people that I have wanted to have on my podcast for a while because I know so much about the impact that you can have on people. And I'm excited for you to share it with us. So thank you for coming.
It's a pleasure to be here, Mindy. Thanks for inviting me.
I would love it if you could start out by walking us through high level overview of your career at McDonald's because it is unique and special and so impressive. So I would love to have you start at the beginning. Tell us where you are now.
Thank you, Mindy. I began my career in the restaurants as a crew member. And I think back on that is you could easily in an introductory job or a role thinking that is the ceiling. You
Yes.
don't necessarily see yourself and the potential and the advocacy that you need to have for yourself. And then more importantly, as you develop mentors and associates, how they advocate for you. So I began my career in Lawrenceville, Georgia, 1975. And I like to tell people, and you probably saw this in my commercial too, which has been, you can still find on YouTube, is I follow the opportunities. And I think that's very important. And I relocated 14 times at McDonald's.
Wow.
And I did that intentionally because I knew that each experience would develop my business acumen, my experience, my street cred, if you will.
For sure.
And I also think it's important for your listeners to know that not every move is a linear move.
Mm,
And so I think of all the positions I had, I started as a crew, as I mentioned, did the normal operations positions you would expect. And then the stretch comes into when you're taking on a role that you do not necessarily have the expertise or the education around. Example being franchising, a
mm,
lot of legal, a lot
yes.
of understanding the franchise agreements that every company that franchises has with their franchisees. So that was certainly a stretch.
Yeah.
And then that opportunity led to positions that really, from a managerial and a leadership perspective, I was managing a very small team as a franchising person,
Hmm.
franchising leader. And then when I had the opportunity to move to the Greenville, South Carolina region at the time, not only am I looking at a different geography, but I'm also looking at a different team and the design of a team.
Hmm.
And so the typical roles in McDonald's, those progressions, as I was in operations post being in franchising, the first big move happened when I moved to Tampa, Florida. And so my position there as a multi-department head as a director, and then my first executive position was a regional manager.
Hmm.
That's when I was moved to Raleigh, North Carolina. And one of the, I guess, benefits, if you will, of doing a really good job is you get tapped on the shoulder. It was
Yeah.
one of the many reorganizations that happened in McDonald's, like a lot of different companies. And I was asked to go to Tampa and
Hmm.
lead that region, which was, from a revenue perspective, the number one region in the country.
I remember that now that you said that, but I don't think I realized when we were in Tampa that it was the highest volume. I didn't know.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Yes. And in most companies, I can say this humbly, you want to match talent with the largest revenue generator if you
Yes.
can.
Yes.
So, but the lesson that I love to share, when Mike Roberts was the US president,
Hmm.
and he had just become the US president. And here I am in Tampa, and I'll never forget this phone call. I was pulled out of a meeting, and Mike says, I want you to come to Chicago and lead strategy
For the whole
for the
US.
whole US business. I go, "Now, Mike, why would I do that? I have the dream job here, not a
Yes.
bad place to
Not a
live."
bad place to live. Yeah.
And this was the best advice that he gave me through a question.
Hmm.
He says to me, "What's your career goal? What would you like to do?" And I said, "Well, I'm quite happy here, but if I was really gonna think about stretching myself, I would like to be a division president."
Hmm.
Here's the advice he gave me. He says, "Karen," he goes, "right now you're in a position of position power."
Hmm.
He said, "I need to see you in a role as a personal power, and I need to see if you're able to stretch the way you think about the business."
Mm.
So that candor, Mindy, which we don't get all the time from our
No,
bosses.
we don't. I will tell you, Karen, I still talk about personal power positional power that I learned from McDonald's. I have a workshop called Leading with Influence, and that is the crux of it. Like you can lead from position or you can lead from personal power. So I smiled when you said that because I feel like that's one of the core lessons that helps so many people realize the influence that they can have. And like, wait, basically what he was telling you is we want to see you do more, but we want you to do more, but we want to see it. We want to see you exercise how you lead in a different way.
And as imagine a boardroom full of A-type personalities.
Mhm.
And for your female listeners out there, being the only woman
Mm.
in the role
Yeah.
on the management team, and it was a very pivotal time in the company. The company was struggling.
Mhm.
And this was the genesis of the plan to win. And so being able to thread the needle across all the different functional departments at McDonald's to develop what was the plan to win,
Yeah.
and we rode that coattail for years.
Mhm.
And that gave me agency. It gave me introductions to the board
Yeah.
as we were bicycling this plan around. But one of the things that I did as I reflect back that was clever is I remember saying to Mike, "Okay, Mike, I'll come do this. I'll come lead strategy, and I'll tell you what, if I do this and I do this well, when the next division president position comes open, I expect that position." So the outcome was negotiated up front.
Mhm. I love that so much. I love hearing that so much, not just for everyone, but for women to be able to say, I will sacrifice leaving where I'm at and move my family and all these things. And I have a vision beyond this and I'm going to speak it into truth. Right.
And that's exactly what happened. And I think I was in the strategy role for 3 years, became the East Division president. And so if you understand the geography of the East, which I know you do, it was the largest generator of revenue for the company, the largest number of restaurants in the regions. And it really gave me purchase in terms of my exposure to analyst,
Hmm.
investor days.
Yes.
It was like an MBA education, other than just running a very good division.
Yes. I can see
And
that.
as you know, post that, I did that for several years.
Hmm.
I retired.
Yes.
I was retired for 9 months. They had a leadership change at the US, and I get a call asking me to come back. And the job that I went back to was, if you had to look at titles,
Hmm.
I was an EVP
Hmm.
as a division president, and I came back as the chief people officer because what I was known for was developing talent and exporting talent. There's a lot of people that wanted to work for Karen King because they knew that I would be personally invested in their career, in their development. And that is probably, of all the highlights of my long career, I must say, the work that I did in developing talent is the one I'm so mostly proud of.
Well, and you should be because obviously I've seen it firsthand and you've touched so many people's lives and helped them stretch themselves. When I look at the influence you had on me, I think you saw more in me than I ever thought would be possible and always pushed me. I'm not going to lie. You are a tough boss sometimes because you push us to be the best that we can be. And I didn't come from a home or a family. I was first generation college student. I don't think my family had any expectations, good or bad, for what I was going to do in a career. If I had stayed in my hometown and worked there, that would have been totally fine. And if I did something else, it would have been fine too. But one of the things that you helped me with was to see what a career could look like because I had never been exposed to it. So it was really, really special.
And to that point, Mindy, mentorship is a long game. You're
Mm,
playing the long game.
yes.
And I think it's important. One of the things, do you know Melody Hobson? Ever heard of Melody?
I have heard of her, but I can't picture her.
She is an African American lady, and I was at some leadership conference, I think it was a DC, and she said something. I was on a panel, and she said something I'll never forget. She said, "When you've worked hard and you've done well, and you've walked through that door of opportunity, don't slam the door shut.
That's a very good advice.
Reach back behind you and take those women with
Mm,
you." And I think that I don't care if you're male or female. I think this is very important that we all stand on the shoulders of the leaders that came before us.
Yes.
And I thought was a very important and insightful comment that I've repeated often.
Yeah. And I'm sure you are still. I think there's a couple things that I want to dig a little deeper on. One of them being that you had not had a role in human resources before, it's like specifically in human resources before became the chief people officer, right? Your investment in people was so well known that they were like, can we just take that out of operations and bottle it and let everybody share the wealth of your knowledge? So hats off to you. And I don't know that it's that common to put someone in a chief officer role without having those technical HR years, right? And understanding labor law and all the things. Not that you didn't get some of that in operations, because we definitely did. But I'm sure just to be recognized and pulled out of retirement for your legacy of developing people is a pretty great testimony.
Well, thank you for that. And you hired, I did, is I had the technical talent
Yes.
on all those things that you just
Yes.
described.
You
But
totally.
I do think that the credentials of this is an operations person that has a track record of people development. This is not theoretical. This is
Mhm.
not just sitting down and doing the 9 boxes.
Right.
This is really asking the right questions about a person's, not just their skill sets, but what their potential is if
Mhm.
it's nurtured.
Mhm. Yeah.
And it could be you see something in somebody and maybe it is an executive coach.
Mhm.
Maybe it's that truth teller
Yeah.
that we all need in our careers
Yes.
that shares with us, here's your derailers, here's your
Mhm.
blind spots. And I remember working with Harvard and coming up with an executive program. McDonald's had never done that.
Yeah.
It was all a shoestring.
Yes.
And so
People who
actually,
were promoted from within, right?
right. So if you ran a great restaurant,
Yeah.
and as you know, back in the day, 40% of our executives came up through the ranks. Well, it's a
Yes.
much more difficult business dynamic today.
Yeah.
The macroeconomics, the global perspective is much different.
Mhm.
I don't care what business it is. It's
Mhm.
still a people business.
Yeah.
And so I did that and I did it well. And then when Steve Easterbrook became the CEO,
Mhm.
um, I was asked to then become the chief field officer, COO. So now I had the US again. So I was moved out of that the people officer role into a role that did oversight for the entire US business, with the exception of marketing and product development. But every other department
Or
reported to me. And I
and
did that.
were you the first female to hold that role?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And you asked a question earlier, maybe in the prep, we were talking about being the first.
Mhm.
And I was the first female restaurant manager, the first female supervisor, the first female consultant. And there's not that advocacy. What I was asking, what we were talking earlier is being the first, would it be first restaurant manager in a room full of men, no one like you, literally in
Mhm.
the room. And the natural biases when you're first, and
Mhm.
you probably know this number better than I, but it used to be the women make 62 cents for every dollar that a man makes. Maybe it's 72 cents now.
I was just gonna
E-
say it's 72 cents now.
Maybe the bias is not as overt, it's covert, but it's still there.
It's there. Yeah.
And here's a little history lesson, which will have your women doing a 360. When I became pregnant with my daughter, I was actually demoted because I was in a delicate way.
I did not know this.
Yes. And so
Wow.
when I share this with mentorship opportunities, women, I mean, we've come a long way. We have a long way to come. But when you share these war stories, and I think for me, it spoke to my resilience
Mhm.
because yes, I was demoted. But that wasn't the end. That
Right.
was just the beginning. That was a
Mhm.
challenge.
Yeah.
The gauntlet had been thrown down.
Mhm.
And so,
Yeah.
yes, I did come back from maternity leave. I did do well in my career. I thrived. I always say you can do it all, not all at the same time. And so, having a good support system, so I was able to take advantage, as I said, follow the opportunities.
Mhm.
But being the first, there's no roadmap.
Yeah. So you were the first female restaurant manager too?
Uh-huh.
I did not know that. Wow, how did I not know some of those things? You know what? I don't think we talked so much about that, but now is we are working so hard, and I'm very passionate and very involved in supporting women and elevating women. I'm so this talk is timely because it's just so interesting. I actually just had the pleasure of hearing Allison Felix speak. And Allison is the most decorated track Olympian in the world. And she is she's US and she was a runner for Nike. And when she got pregnant, they reduced her contract significantly. She was hiding her pregnancy, practicing at night so that people couldn't see she was pregnant. And this is not that long ago. This is not that long ago. The good thing from her situation is she and some other athletes wrote an op-ed for the New York Times and called out these companies who are being discriminatory towards female athletes, and they did get the change that they were asking for. But I mean, that's today. And hearing that you dealt with this so long ago, I mean, not make, when I say that, it makes me sound really old. So that I don't want to do that. But you know what I mean? Like so many years ago to be the first. And I think it's important to say the age that you started as crew person too.
19.
19, starting in the stores is such a young age. And really, I think and the McDonald's is really good at this. I think what makes people very credible, or at least back then in McDonald's, was that you could work in the restaurants and that you knew what it was like to clean the parking lot and you knew what it was like to make fries for 5 hours and all the things. And so I think that you somewhat, we all say paid your dues when you do those jobs. McDonald's was a company that rewarded results and rewarded you being in the trenches.
That's exactly right, and we are a restaurant business. I still say we.
Yeah.
I'm very much a fan of this amazing company, which has been so good to me,
Hmm.
and I to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't underestimate my contribution to the company's results. The theme of the people, I don't look back and go, this is my margin, this is my P&L statement, this is the revenue. I do believe that the best contribution of a leader, any leader, and include myself in that, is the advocacy of the talent that you are responsible for. There's actually you have an obligation. All of us have worked for bosses that we say, I wanna be like them. They
Mhm.
inspire me. We
Mhm.
also work for bosses that's also a leadership lesson where you say, I'll never be that person if
Right.
I'm in that position of responsibility. So it does cut both ways.
It really does. And, I think also going back to your role as chief people officer, I have always felt that, yes, I have a college degree, but I have felt that my education in both operations, leadership, and human resources came from McDonald's. It was just such a good development company. And it ties into them seeing like, it doesn't matter that our chief people officer has, her HR certification. It matters that she develops people well and has a track record of that. So it's a testimony to how the company worked and how much they developed us. I mean, I feel like it was a fire hose, just learning so much every day. But it was also so much fun. I mean, I don't know if you remember this, but I was young and working under you in Atlanta, and it was hot. It was August. We were opening a facility and we were all like melting. And you come in with Christmas socks on and you're like, okay, it may be hot, but we're going to think cold and we're going to have fun. And it's just when I think about you always had the ability to balance the just intense learning with now how are we going to have fun while we do it? And we have stories. We have stories we could tell about cleaning, the play place and all the things, right? We have some fun stories, but also just really thinking about a well-rounded leader. And that is what I was able to see in you because you really also cared about, I mean, like we started this by asking about my family. I mean, I think one of the things that you're also known for is just, leadership is not just about teaching the profit and loss statement and how to rotate, buns, so the freshest ones are used first, right? It's about caring about your people. And frankly, I think that is the style of leadership that you had so long ago, but also that people are really learning empathetic leadership and managing on a personal basis and really letting people know that you care about them goes such a long way. It really does.
Mindy, I would describe another way of what you just said is about authenticity.
Mm,
And the McDonald's experience, everything you do communicates, right?
mhm. Yes.
And so I was known even at my last position, number 2 in the US company, when I was in a restaurant, I started in the kitchen,
Yeah, I remember.
thanking
Yeah.
every one of the employees
Mhm.
because that's the heart of the business.
Yes.
The kitchen is the heart of the business, and I wanted the franchisees and my staff to understand what was important to me.
Mhm.
Because if the restaurant's humming, we're taking care of our customers. We're taking care of our customers. Do you remember Debbie Stroud?
Yes.
You know, Debbie is now the CEO of Whataburger.
In here in San Antonio. Yes, I do
The
know
Mc
that because I have a few friends who work there, and they've kept me in touch. There's other people who have come to Whataburger from McDonald's too, possibly from Debbie's influence. But yes, they've got some McDonald's talent right here in San Antonio.
She comes to visit me the September before it was announced that she was CEO. And we're sitting, and she said, "Do you remember?" And I said, "Okay, tell me what." And she said, she was my finance person.
Mhm.
And we were in a restaurant, and I was in the kitchen with her, and I was explaining to her what I look for in a well-run operation.
Mhm.
And she says to me, "I want to be you one day." And I said, "Well, Debbie, then you need to learn how to make a cheeseburger."
Yeah.
And so when she came to see me and shared that story, it just reminds me the impact you can have on people
Mhm.
in such a good way.
Yes.
And I don't even remember saying this.
You don't. Yeah.
I do not remember saying
It
this.
sounds like something you would say though, right? My sister, she always has this line, it makes me laugh every time. She goes, "I don't remember saying that, but it sounds like me." So,
So that
sounds
was
like
just
you
what
too.
yeah, that's just one of the examples that I could think of that.
But you're entirely right though. One of the things about McDonald's is that, even me as a human resources consultant back in the Tampa days, before I was like kind of released to do my HR job, I worked a month in the stores. Drove out to Plant City, worked night shifts and weekend shifts and girl shifts and all the things because understanding what it takes at the core to do any job in the organization, especially where that interacts with customers, not the whole organization. It just makes you a better leader. And she's
Yes,
done
sir.
well. She's done well.
So
You'll have to come to San Antonio to see both of us because I'm guessing she lives here too. Yeah, it's a great place. It's a great place. It's a
yes,
lot of fun.
and she has, really developed her she suite, I call it. She has some wonderful female leaders. In fact, she would be a wonderful one to have as on your podcast.
I would love it. I would love it. I'd love
So
to.
I'll definitely write her a note and,
Thank
encourage her
you.
to do so. I need to do that. Now I have 2 reasons to come.
You do, and I might wait a little bit because it's hot in the summer. Wait a
Yeah.
little bit, but it's a fun place to visit for sure. Okay, so I wanna talk to you about motherhood and being a wife as you moved 14 times. I have had the pleasure of knowing your daughter and your husband for many years, and I know that it takes a village and your own village to help a woman be successful when they're balancing motherhood. So let's talk about Matt for a second. So Matt passed away almost 6 years ago and was a legend. That he was just a legend, right? But one of the things I loved most about Matt was watching him support you in your career. So talk to me about what that support looked like and how spouses can support their significant other in as a career journey like yours.
And thank you for remembering Matt. That was huge. I'll tell you what was really bad was my first relocation
Mm,
as a single mom with a 6-year-old.
yeah.
And if I did not have I don't know if you recall Art Alamo.
Mhm.
His wife was my babysitter because when I first moved to
Yeah.
Florida, I was in Macapco, very
Mhm.
unpredictable hours.
Yeah.
So having that support system or being painfully aware when you don't, it's a big distraction because you want to be very good at your job, but our most important job is being a good mother
Yes.
at the end of the day.
Yes.
At the end of the day. And when I met the love of my life and married Matt and moved to Atlanta, my career was skyrocketing.
Mhm.
And Matt was the anchor because he didn't travel. And so if there was a school pickup or if there was something that needed a parent, he
Mhm.
was there. And did I miss things? Yes. When my daughter Kathleen was doing college searches,
Mhm.
it's Matt parading her all across the country in terms of that. But having that anchor at home beyond when my daughter went into adulthood,
Mhm.
I left on Mondays, came back Thursdays, left on Tuesdays, came back Friday. I come home to a clean home, folded laundry, loving sweet notes, glad you're
Mhm.
home, dinner's in
Mhm.
the fridge. And you've been on stage with the blaring lights and right. So I was doing a McDonald's convention and you can't see in front of you, as you know.
Mhm. Yes.
And after Matt had passed away, the number of people that was just sharing their condolences, but they're also the people like you that go, he has such charisma, he has such presence, he made you feel like you're the most important person in the room.
Yes.
And they shared at one of these conventions just a look of pride on his face.
Mm.
So he shared in my success.
He really did. I mean, and
He
just
relished,
support it. Yes.
yes. And I think it's not a competition,
No.
right? And so I know a lot of women McDonald's executives. Where's Debbie Strauss' husband, Bob?
Mhm. Mhm.
He stayed home and raised the children. Karen Garcia's.
Mhm.
A lot of executives had their husbands, male spouses, stay at home as their career
Yeah.
was taking off.
And, I love to hear that because it was so foreign to think that that would happen, right? That it was foreign to think that the woman's career would be elevated, and we still have a long way to go. But when you have somebody beside you cheering you on and helping, right? You have that perfect combination of somebody who can help you succeed, and I actually have found that in my husband as well, and I credit you and Matt as an example because my husband, there's literally nothing that he will not do to support my career, and I'm thankful for waiting to get married till I was 38 because I just had some great examples of spouses who supported their wives, and so I knew what was possible for me based on observing.
That's a very good point. You're exactly right. We yes, and we were both. You're very blessed to have Andy as your partner, and I was certainly very blessed to have Matt as mine.
Yes, absolutely, and your daughter works for McDonald's now, right?
Yeah, celebrated her 15 years
That's exciting.
in McDonald's, and she is. I'm very proud of her. She is very good at what she does.
I believe it. I believe it. She's always been a hard worker, and she's had such great role models.
I'd like to think so.
Yeah, for sure. Karen, you probably know that I speak a lot on networking. And for me, networking has been instrumental in my career in the corporate world. And as I have built relationships, to me, networking is all about building authentic relationships and keeping those relationships alive. And because you can have this mutually rewarding relationship. When you're not out there pitching, right? So I don't feel like networking is pitching, it's relational. And as I interview guests on the podcast, I love to get your take on how networking has helped your career.
One of the early, I would say, investments that McDonald's did in terms of embracing diversity groups was the Women Operator Network as
Mhm.
one,
Mhm.
which at the time was still fairly small.
Mhm.
And then in McDonald's, the corporate women, the Women's Leadership Network.
Okay.
And as you would know, it created a very safe harbor for women to be vulnerable,
Mhm.
Share life lessons, career lessons, what you would tell your younger self if you had to do something all over again. I think it is a pivotal moment for any leader to understand the value of networking. Sometimes you can get in a mindset where it's just heads down.
Mhm.
And there's a time for that. But if you really want to invest in your career and nurture your career, the best learning you can get is being around other people that set an example.
Mhm.
And so McDonald's did that very well. And I think that to me, it didn't occur to me until I left McDonald's and became a board member
Mhm.
and had the opportunity to mentor women and mentor actually any leader, but women in particular, the value of networking. And it's not just LinkedIn.
No.
It's saying yes. It's saying yes to the local NACD chapter. Would you come speak on this topic?
Mhm.
Would you come to the Stanford Directors College and provide a point of view on the hospitality industry and being a board member? Would you come to what was the one I did in New York? The summit on artificial intelligence, agentic AI, as we're calling
Mhm.
it now,
Mhm.
that I did this past Friday and was on a panel. So you have to say yes to these opportunities. It is not just for your own development, it's what you share with others. I think we have a responsibility and obligation to do that.
Yes, we absolutely do. And the formula that I say for modern day networking, first of all, I believe it will always include in-person networking and virtual networking using things like LinkedIn. For me, LinkedIn helps me stay fresh of hot, top of mind and I can message people in my network there. But in-person networking is equally important. But the formula I talk about is visibility plus relationships equals opportunity. And so when you're talking about saying yes to somebody who wants you to share your knowledge in a group setting or coming to be on a panel, those kind of things are networking to me because they are increasing your visibility, but also more people see you as a subject matter expert, right? And when you have that ability to be seen as the subject matter expert, it can only help grow your own career as well.
That is very sage advice for your listeners.
Well, that's what I built my whole networking school around. To be honest, I've always trained on human resources or leadership, right? And it wasn't until I became a business owner that women around me. So I'm very active and on the board for an organization called the National Association for Women's Business Owners. Our San Antonio chapter is the largest and was just ranked the chapter of the year. We have almost 240 women in our program. And it was people in the organization who came to me and said, "Would you come share about how you network? Because we're seeing something in you that we aren't doing." And so I came and spoke at like a lunch and learn for like 25 women. And then the next month, they said, "Well, can you come do a networking talk at our big monthly luncheon? Because people really resonated with that and you enlightened them. They really hadn't thought about networking in the way that you're talking about." And again, I didn't have these created. These presentations weren't created. I created them for them because they asked for it. Well, this is where LinkedIn comes in. So a couple people, posted about it and I posted about getting the chance to share it. I was new in the organization at the time and I posted about it on LinkedIn. My husband's boss's daughter who lived in DC saw the post and said, "Hey, Mindy, I hadn't even seen this woman since she was 12. I was just in a conference planning meeting and we are looking for a networking speaker. What's your rate?" And I was like, "I have not been a paid speaker. And this is something I just created because people saw something in me. And now I present options for what I can talk about in my signature talk is called Networking in a Hyper Connected World. And it's by far the most requested talk. So you kind of go where people see something in you. And that is how I've ended up talking about networking so much. But it really ties in. I mean, we recruit better when we network, right? We have more opportunity within companies when we have relationships and visibility and people know what we do and what we can do and want to do. So I see it as a business strategy not just a career strategy.
Well said. It's a personal and professional development strategy.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. So I've loved evolving into a networking expert. That wasn't my intention, but it has really stuck. And I have networking school now with almost 70 members and get to talk about it often. I still do train on HR and talk about HR as well. But like I said, my most requested talk that really goes across all industries because we all need to figure out how to be visible and known in this really crazy world we're in. So,
Especially now when I'll call it shorthand of relationships because of whether it be AI, whether it be offices thinking that we don't need the overhead and G&A, so let's
mhm.
just have everyone work from home. And I think that is going to come home to roost. And you think about culture development,
Yes.
personal and professional development, mentorship.
Hmm.
And so what you're describing, if we can thread the needle on that in a bigger way, can only not only benefit the employees, but the
But
company.
the company. Yes, yes, yes. And, it's interesting that you say that about now I'm thinking I should do a whole podcast episode on, like, networking if you work from home, right? Because a lot of people who work from home kind of think they get a pass on, being out and talking to people, but that's still it's probably even more important if people are in a home office to make sure that they know how they can stay visible and build relationships.
I think a topic that would be, if you think about Doppler radar in terms of weather, based on my conference on Friday, there is such uncertainty, fear, unknown of agentic AI
Mhm.
and how that impacts their career, their future career. You're hearing college students booing a commencement
Yeah.
speaker. And when you hear that agents are going to be talking to agents, and is there going to be that human in the loop as is
Mhm.
described?
Mhm.
That would probably be a question. You should probe that as a
I
topic
think
to
you're right.
see it's not technology, it's business transformation.
Mhm.
How do we fit in that?
Mhm. Yeah, because the business transformation is going to happen whether we are on board or not, but we still need the human side, right? We still need the human side, and, I think that's where networking can come in.
No question. Jamie Dimon was quoted, AI is not going to replace jobs, but I do expect my employees to understand how to use this as a productivity tool. But it still comes to personal relationships.
Yes. Yes. I couldn't agree more. I use it as a productivity tool every day. But people are talking now about business owners using it to replace employees. And I can't even imagine me having a world where it's me and AI all day long. Maybe I could save money, but that's not going to help me do my best work. I need people
Yes,
for sure. Well, thank you so much for taking your time. I know that you have a busy schedule. You're active on boards and with your church. And so I just know that your time is valuable. And I thank you so much for sharing with us today.
it's a pleasure to be here, Mindy. Thank you very much for having me.